So since the last video, I've done a couple of very minor touch-ups, and I've done this off camera just because they are pretty much in line with what we've been doing before. So they're just little shifts and adjustments. So no real reason to show you every last detail. But just to run through what I've done is I've gone and extended these columns up to meet this roof, and I've copied them across using the grid spacing on the CAD plans. And I've taken these two columns in the middle and shortened them just so that they don't meet this roof. And I've adjusted some lines just so that they are slightly wider so that the columns can come up and meet them. I've also touched up one or two lines here just to bring it even further closer to these stairs, and I've raised this corner slightly higher. What I would like to do now is I would like us just to fix up some of these last little details that are missing on the building, and after that the building will be complete. So the first thing I want to do here is we want to turn on our slab edges, and we want to create that roof which is hovering up here. So we can do this quite simply by going into our spline, and we just select the spline that is below it. Let's look at it in this view, and we can now go and pull that spline up. Let's just make sure that working pivot is off, and that spline is over here. Now we're just going to pull it up visually, and then we're going to detach that. We're going to detach it because we're going to change the parameters of that spline. Now we can use the sweep from the balconies below. We can copy that, and we can paste it without instancing to that new object. In our front view, we can position it to the right height, and we can make it slightly wider. Then in perspective view, we can also have a look at how we can start it perhaps here, and widen it slightly. So that creating the capping element which is on top of this building here. Then I also see that there's a slab missing. Let's turn on our slabs, just make sure that the slab is there. These are our slabs here, and we see that there's a slab missing from the top here. So just holding down Shift, I'm going to, with snap on, copy that line to the top, and then release, and that slab will automatically be created. The beauty about working with these splines is that I can add, delete slabs wherever I want, and I don't really have to worry about everything else. It'll just pop into place, and that is exactly what we want to do. Now there's another edit that I would like to do on this part of the building, is that round about here in the middle we want to open up a big chunk. Let's say about 4 or 5 stories we want to remove so that we can create a big sky garden in the middle. You'll see this on the final images that we looked at in the first introduction. So to do this, we're going to start with our main volume, and we're going to do edit poly just in case we want to go back, and we're going to delete, let's delete all of this. So we delete four levels. Now when we go back into here, we need to do the same thing with all of the other slabs as well as the balustrades, because we don't need them in these levels anymore. So what we do is we go into our editable spline, and we can delete those, just making sure that we don't delete lines where we don't want them. So just to make sure, let's pull it to the side, and yep, those are the ones I want to delete. Maybe not this one. Let's just check that again. Yep, those 3, and just hit delete on your keyboard. And same thing with these slabs here. I basically want to delete these 3. And then as soon as I release, everything will snap back into position. So that'll give me the idea of the sky garden in the middle. And since we are showing the sky garden, you may want to add in the other columns just so that you can see all of them coming through in the middle there. Now let's have a look at the balustrades, and I believe we'll have to do the same thing. We have to copy one more balustrade up. Let's go back into the spline level, and here you can use the reference from directly below, and pressing spacebar, snap, and shift, we're going to shift that upwards. Here we want to do the same thing to the slab. So again, we're always manipulating the splines, and we just repeat the same process where we copy from below. So now we've just copied an extra slab edge and an extra balustrade to this level on top. Now here we still have these 3 layers here. I'm actually going to hide this object so we can see this a little bit easier. And I'm going to delete these splines again. And this is exactly how we edit the building, even if we now do completed renders and we want to go back and make changes for the client. You just go back and edit the splines, and those splines will automatically regenerate with all of their sweeps and everything. Now we must just be careful that we don't do too many edits. For instance, if we add an edit poly on top of the spline and then edit the spline below, we're going to get some pretty nasty results because we added that edit poly at the top. So that's why I prefer keeping the modeling process quite simple. Always edit the simplest version of that object, the derivative, and you will then always have quite a clean result to work with. Right, the next small detail that I want to cover is going to be the, I'm going to turn on the elevations here so we can show you. It's going to be these lampposts and this net behind. So knowing that we have a soccer game going on here, this ball is going to be flying all over the show. So we want to create these nets on either side with the lighting, and we're going to cover that in this next part. So let's head on right into that. We're going to start by selecting the edge here and selecting this elevation and isolating that. And in our front view, we're going to create a plane roughly to the size that we need to be at. Now this plane, we can simplify it even more. And then we can start to just pull the vertices into the place that we want them. Now you'll see that in plan we'll have to edit it as well. So let's just connect these two. I'll shift this vertex, let me weld it to this corner. You may want to just tilt that to the side. Now let's have a look at what we've created in plan. We need to shift that all the way across to our model, which is quite far away since we're working on such a big scale. And let's move it to the edge here. And let's move that right about to there. And if we zoom out, you'll see that we have this net shape starting to form. Let's tilt it in a little bit. And we're just going to imagine that this is this steel frame with at least one pole here, one pole on the other side that is giving us this shape. Now we want to do something very similar for the 2 light posts on either side. We'll start this time with a line. What we could actually do, since we have this in place, why not? Let's go into this object, let's select that edge, and let's create a shape from it. Now that's going to give us an advantage because it's already in the right place in plan, so all we have to do is some minor edits. Let's add a refine by right-clicking, add another vertex, or another point, and let's make all of that a corner object by right-clicking. Then let's extend this one up to more or less where it's supposed to be. This one too, and this one we'll just shift over slightly to the side. Now let's go into plan, and let's edit that as well to just look like it's a pole that's coming out. Now let's go back into the front view and let's create a plane that is going to be sitting here. Now I'm going already in this view, I'm just going to snap it to this object so that when we go into top view we can immediately be in the right area, and we just visually adjust this however we feel fit. We can Alt right click and choose local so that we can tilt it downwards. And this will be the base geometry for your lighting. Your spline, you can add a sweep modifier, SW enter. And we can use a cylinder for that. The radius can be about, let's say, 0.1. I also like to keep the interpolation quite low on these objects that we don't see from very close. And this object here, let's just add a shell to it of 0.1 just to create that object. So that object we can then carry on further. We can add lights if we're going to do any detailed shots of it and all that. And this mesh we're going to use as the net. We're going to mirror it 4 times, so which we'll do in the next video. Well, I'll do it on the side and then I'll show you the result in the next video. And we'll be able to then continue with the rest of the building. And once we mirror this, we will basically have 80–90% of the rough modeling for the whole building all together. Now, just before we finish the video, let's turn on all the other layers, including the city, and let's just have a look at what we've created. So since we started this tutorial, we've gone and created the terrain, the buildings. I'm going to just go into mesh view so we can see everything a little bit clearer for the graphics card to display. So that's everything we've done so far. So we're actually quite far down the road. We only have a couple of small details. We're going to do some planting in the next video once I show you what the mirrored version of this looks like, and a couple of touch-ups, and we should be ready to texture and light. So that's it for this video, and the next one is coming right up.